Hi everyone. Here we are with the last segment of the class. Beginning. This is the not this isn't the last one. This is the beginning of the last segment of the class. We're going to be talking about the final P, which is what's the final P? Anyone know? Promotion, which is also the moment everyone's been waiting for. Because everyone, when we talk about marketing, everybody immediately says what do you think about when you think about marketing? And 9 times out of 10 or more people say they think about advertising. So advertising and public relations. So those are the things we're really going to be focusing on in these next couple chapters. The final P and the promotion mix with selling, personal selling, advertising, public relations, social online media. And we're also going to talk about globalization and sustainability at the end. Anyway, okay, so let's get going here. So the promotion mix, just like we have a marketing mix, we have a promotion mix. And that promotion mix are all of the things that are done in the promotion efforts. So advertising, sales promotion, which we've talked about before, personal selling, public relations, and direct and digital marketing. We're not going to spend a lot of time on personal selling, but a little bit. But that's for the next the chapter after. Thanks. Okay, hang on. All right. So the new marketing communications model. The big thing is, and we're going to talk about this over and over again, is how much the marketing environment has changed in the past 10, 15 years. Most of it is due, in fact, I would say all of it is due to digitization and our ability to shop anytime, anywhere. It's affected retailing, which we talked about in the last section. It's affected how product development, all that kind of thing. So with marketing communications, changing consumers are becoming more educated, and also, again, this whole idea of globalization and the changing demographics of our own country. People are changing their marketing strategies and that kind of thing, and digital technology. So we also can reach smaller segments of people. You really understand the markets better and understand how to get in touch with those people. And the change in the type of media that's available out there. Okay, so one thing that we talk about a lot, we talked about before, is this idea of integrated marketing communications. And integrated marketing communications is the idea that all platforms of communication that the company uses, promotional tools, advertising, their personal selling efforts, anything they do direct and online, their sales promotion, everything is sending the same message, creating the same image, and promoting the same thing. Because there's so many products out there that if you start to confuse your product with other products, or you don't really understand your product yourself, and you send out a different message, then it's going to be hard for people to remember what your product is, right? Because there's so much going on out there. So, for example, Geico. Geico has the same message over and over and over again. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more. They send out that idea of cost saving over and over and over again. Places like Honda talk about affordability and reliability. Some companies talk about safety ratings, that kind of thing. So integrated marketing communications, that there's the same consistent message, that the same spokespeople. It can be as detailed as people want, but it can include even just the look of the message as well as the tone of the message as well. When I say the look, I mean the colors used, the fonts used, the style of writing used, the people that are used, the actors, and that kind of thing. All right, so we're going to talk about a bunch. I'm just going to kind of go through the different promotion tools that we already talked about. Advertising, they're somewhat generally what they're about. Advertising, you can reach a lot of people. It can be pretty low cost, depending. Advertising can be done through all sorts of different media, television, radio, newspaper, online, that kind of thing. So, and it can lend you, give you opportunity for a lot of expression, but it is very impersonal, and there's not that like one-on-one sales persuasiveness. You can just walk away from an ad. Personal selling is the personal interaction between two or more people. We're going to talk about that in the next chapter, and in that area, it's really this idea about building the relationship. It is very expensive, but it can really, depending upon the price of the product, it can really make a big difference. And it's harder to say no to a person than it is to say no to an ad or a flyer that comes in the mail. In personal selling, too, when we talk about the 2 points of marketing or goals of marketing is value creation and relationship building. This idea of the personal selling is really kind of at the heart of the relationship building, and also helps to determine what it is that customers consider to be value. All right, so let's go on. The next one, sales promotion. All sorts of different ways to do sales promotions. We're going to talk about that more detail. I'll talk about that in more detail. And it can be very effective. Whether it's long-lived or not is another issue, and people can talk about that over and over again, and it might change from situation to situation. Public relations is this idea that okay, so this is how I describe public relations. The point of public relations is to build up good relationships with the publics. Remember we talked about marketing publics earlier on in the semester, so that when things go bad, they'll like you. So build up good relationships with the media, build up good relationships with your investors, with your community groups, all that kind of thing. So that they will think of you. It's not always necessary for when things are bad, but they'll think of you. And also if things go bad, they might give you the benefit of the doubt. And then direct and digital marketing, that's something that's really changed a lot. It used to be direct mail, was really the key thing. And also, what's it called? Telemarketing. Those things have kind of gone by the wayside. Certainly telemarketing, there is still some direct mail that's done. But really the digital marketing is where it's at in terms of direct mail. But we're going to talk about that in more detail. Okay, push versus pull strategy. Excuse me. When we talked about the marketing channel, I think I said that you should think about the market when we talk about place, P, the third P, place, which is the marketing channel and distribution, to think of it as a straightaway, or think of it as like a tube, an actual like a channel of water or a tube. In this case, it would be. You should think of it as like a wrapping paper, a tube for wrapping paper. There's essentially 2 strategies that you can employ when it comes to promotion. And if you think of the marketing channel as a tube, push strategy is when the producer comes up with some sort of activities through personal selling, trade promotions, through the businesses, and then they also have sales promotions or coupons or demonstrations or whatever, that they make it, they make specials or 2-for-1 deals or something like that, so that the consumer is pulling the product. I'm sorry, the marketer is pushing the product through to the consumer. So they're making it so appealing to people they're making it appealing to people through the promotions, and so they're pushing it down on them. There hasn't necessarily been a call for the product, but that we're pushing it down. So, for example, this time of certain times of year, you'll see Christmas time. You'll see promotions for Christmas candy or certain types of wrapping paper or gift wrap or whatever it may be, and that you push it. It's push on the consumer. You make it such a deal, or you make it for the people who are selling the product. They get allowances or returns or whatever, rebates, whatever it may be, that you're pushing it through and kind of almost, I hate to use the word forcing the product on the consumer, but to a certain extent you are. The pull strategy, on the other hand, is to create this whole mystique or aura or demand for the product through advertising, public relations, advertising the product, getting articles out about the product, doing demonstrations, that kind of thing, that the consumer so wants it that they'll pull it through, that they're pulling it down. They're asking for it, and they're pulling it down from the marketer, from the producer. Okay, so it's just push strategy versus pull strategy. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, particularly when it comes to promotions. Okay. So manage your advertising decisions. Objective. What is the objective? What's the objective of the advertising campaign? That objective is going to change based on the product, what stage the product life cycle it is. So we're going to talk about different advertising objectives at the next slide. But think about how the advertising message might change in the introduction stage versus the decline or maturity stage, right? So is it informative? You're trying to persuade someone to do something, a reminder, advertising, that kind of thing. Okay, budget decisions, basically how much money you're going to be able to spend and how are you going to determine that. Sometimes every situation depends and is different, depending upon what the product is, what the resources of the company are, that kind of thing. And the message in the media, so what are you going to say and where are you going to say it? Are you sending out information about, are you trying to stress quality? Are you stressing quantity? Are you stressing variety? Are you stressing low-cost provider? What's your message? And then where are you going to through what channel are you going to put that message? As I said, television, radio, TV, online, direct mail. And then after that, you go through an advertising evaluation and determine if you reached your objectives. Okay, so possible advertising objectives, we kind of hit on this, but informative can be done during introduction or the growth stage. Persuasive advertising really could be done throughout the entire product life cycle, probably maybe more so in the decline stage, maturity and decline. Then reminder advertising also in maturity and decline to remind people that the product is out there. You might be doing it for different reasons, trying to build up brand identity, trying to promote a larger package, that kind of thing. Okay. So advertising strategy. So basically the strategy is what you're going to use to fulfill the objectives. And how is it that you're hoping your distributors and customers will behave together. Okay, so I have a question for you all, and at some point, I would imagine in the past 24 or 48 hours, you have all driven someplace, and think about what ads you saw. So, or you probably had a television on. What ads did you see on television or hear on the radio? And generally speaking, the answer to that question most times is, I don't remember. Sometimes you notice them, sometimes you don't. We're so bombarded with information. So it's this idea that you have to build an advertising message that people will remember. And you often hear people say, oh, there's a great commercial. Remember that guy does this, and then he does that, and it's really funny, and his buddy comes in. You say, what was that ad? Well, what was it for? I have no idea. It was just a funny ad. So these are things that you want to think about, advertisers think about in terms of making sure their ads are memorable. And there's this whole idea of breaking through the clutter. We call all that stuff around clutter. Clutter is like the white noise that is there when you're driving. You're hopefully paying attention to the road. When you're watching television, you're also maybe reading the newspaper, or you're looking at your email, or it's all the other stuff going on that's going to distract you. So there is a concept called Madison Vine. Madison Avenue, of course, if you may or may not know, is it's in New York City and is the heart of the advertising industry. Vine is in Hollywood. Hollywood and Vine is that people sort of known as this, the term of Hollywood and Vine is where you want to go if you're going to make it in movies. You want to go to Hollywood and Vine. So there's two, Madison Avenue and Hollywood and Vine, two iconic locations for two different industries, advertising and entertainment. And Madison and Vine is this idea that it's merging of entertainment and the entertainment and the advertising world together. So it's basically product placement. And trying to break through the clutter and find new ways to reach customers. So I'm sure you've seen, consciously or unconsciously, seen this in television programs. and also in movies. So, some of the classic ones that in The Italian Job, they drove Mini Coopers. In Modern Family, there's a lot they talk about her Apple MacBook. And American Idol, when American Idol was still on, they would, they drank Coca-Cola, or at least they had Coca-Cola glasses on the table. So this is a way to remind people that of a product. You'll see it, when you, as I said, when you're watching, sometimes a water bottle, you'll be able to see where the water, what kind of water it is, or if you don't see it, it means they didn't get any product placement. The cars they drive and shows, that kind of thing. Okay, moving on. Selecting advertising media. So you want to go through and figure out who you want to reach, and then you have to measure what the ability of that medium is to reach that person. How often you want to send something out, that kind of thing. What kind of media you want to use. So, for example, during children's programming, they're going to have ads for toys. During on the Food Network, they're going to be advertising food and cooking equipment and pots and pans and that kind of stuff. HGTV is going to have ads for Home Depot, that kind of thing. So you're going after your audience. And it could be a special interest, or it could be a demographic. You'll notice too, usually like the ads that are shown on a football game are different than the ads that they show during golf, for example. Anyway, so you want to select the media, and you want to make sure that it's going to reach your people. All right, or your target market. All right, so there's the different types of media types, and they all have pros and cons. There's television, which is a lot of clutter. There might not necessarily be a lot of selectivity, or there could be very high selectivity. It doesn't matter. You don't know really until it happens. It can be very targeted, or it could be as very general. If you advertise on the news, then it's going to be a little bit different than if you advertise on a specific television program. Anyway, digital and mobile and social media. Very reasonable. It can be very reasonable to do. It can be very highly selective. Doesn't necessarily, it goes up very quickly, but you don't necessarily know whether you're going to reach your group or not. All right, and the newspapers and direct mail. Newspapers have a pretty short shelf life, but you can share a lot of information in there, which is great. And also you get good local coverage. Direct mail, it's expensive and it has a bad image, but it also can be very flexible. It can be very highly selective and personalized. Okay, and magazines, it's a long purchase time. They're expensive, although they can be very, very selective in terms of demographics. There's so many specialized magazines: woodworking magazines, hunting magazines, sewing magazines, beading magazines, fashion magazines, that kind of stuff. Most magazines have some sort of theme to them, so you can you really can select your demographic or whatever your segmentation variable is. Radio, it's very inexpensive, but and it's for geographic and demographic. It's very selective, but it's not necessarily people. I don't know what happens. I don't know, when I get a radio ad on the radio, I usually turn the station. I think most people do. So there's also only audio, so you have to create a great image. And then outdoor advertising can be very effective, but it's not necessarily highly selective unless it's a geographic issue. You might not necessarily have a lot of competition. So outdoor advertising includes billboards, signs of buses, bus stations, that kind of thing. Okay. All right. So this is just sort of an important thing to think about in terms of how the administration or the organization of advertising. That is, people either have an in-house marketing department, or they go outside and use advertising agency. Some companies, if they're bigger, do both. They have an inside marketing department, but they also engage with an advertising agency that specializes in advertising. Okay, so you also want to think about if you're going to be with globalization, with advertising decisions, how much you want to adapt it. The benefits to doing it standardized is that it's much less expensive because you don't have to come up with a new message. That it's easier to coordinate things globally, and it's a consistent worldwide message. The problem is that can be with standardization is that all of our cultures are different. So what we might consider to be appropriate or would resonate with us or make sense to people in the States might not make sense to people who live in England. So you have to be culturally sensitive. Okay, and so there's some issues that are face that global advertisers face. That media cost, advertising practices, again the cultures and customs. We just talked about that. Okay, so let's talk about public relations. What are the functions of a public relations department? They have a press relations or press agency. That's someone who pretty much just deals with the media. Lobbying are people who spend their time working with members of the legislative branch to impact laws. So your city or town council, county legislator, state legislators, and then ultimately Congress. They try to promote, encourage them to pass laws or save laws or prevent laws from being passed that will hurt the company or help to get laws passed that will help the company. Okay, product publicity is just that dealing with promotion and sharing information about specific products. Investor relations deals with people who have invested in the company, stockholders, shareholders. Public affairs deals essentially with community groups, and both at a national and local level, and perhaps even international level. So public affairs, and then development is what's done with that nonprofit organizations to work with donors to gain some kind of financial or volunteer support. Donors could be individuals, governments, foundations. Okay, so what does public relations do? It tries to promote. It can promote a company. It can promote a person. It can promote an idea, a geographic area. You've seen ads for come to Lake Michigan or we love New York and that kind of thing. So it builds relationships with people and also might build interest in a trade organization or some kind of commodities organization. So the avocado growers or the garlic growers or the orange growers, Florida orange growers, that kind of thing. So it can be really very important. It's a very important brand building tool. It engages customers. It makes them part of the brand story in terms of having doing product publicity and getting out and meeting with people, that kind of thing. It can be it can be limited, but it's very very important, and it might also be infrequent or scattered, as it says, as I have there. But it's really an important activity of any marketing department is building these relationships up with people. So that they, as I said, they think of you, and so also that if things get bad, they will, defend you. Okay, and then there's major public relations tools. News or we also talk about press releases, that kind of thing. Audiovisual materials. Videos that are sent out, that kind of thing. Special events, news conferences, speeches, brand tours, multimedia presentations, educational programs, that kind of thing. So things that are meant to reach out to the target audience. Written materials, corporate identity materials, which are things like well, corporate identity materials and written materials both kind of go together. This idea of brochures or videos, that kind of thing. That also even the business cards, that kind of stuff. And then public service activities would include contributing money or time or some kind of expertise to nonprofit organizations or public service organizations. So PR plays an important role. PR is, it's about friend building, basically. You are building friends and developing relationships. Okay, so that's it for chapter 12. And we are next going to move on to chapter 13, where we're going to talk about personal selling and sales promotion. Okay, thanks everyone.